John Coyle. I've been importing wine for 16 years, selling wine for 16 years. Travel the world, watch the trends. You know, the saying of, the revolution will not be televised. I'll tell you, the revolution is being televised with all the reality shows about wine, and you'll have a wine in your hand when you witness the revolution. It's here. What's turning me on about wine right now is that I think wine has always been a sensual pleasure, right? When I started 16 years ago, America was probably number 5 in the world for wine consumption. We're now number 1, and not only are we number 1, but we're number 1 in drinking good wine. So it's not White Zinfandel. It's not White Zinfandel. It's not Yellowtail. It's good wine. Like, I'm now going to friends' houses who, I would stop them for dinner and all of a sudden they have Chinon on the table. I'm like, why are you drinking Chinon? Like, who turned you on to Chinon? And it really is two things. An incredible groundswell of education from sommeliers, I think, around the country, just when guests come in, turning them on to super cool wines. And then second, I think their palates are changing. I don't see America being the Coca-Cola generation that it used to be 15, 16 years ago, where you had to have residual sugar, where champagnes had higher dosage, where cabs and pinots had tons of basically the Parkerization of wine. It's changed. I think people now trust their own palates, coupled with they just want more savory wines that go with food. And it's really an incredible evolution that has happened, that I've witnessed firsthand. 15 years ago, classic example. Nobody knew what Sancerre was. You couldn't sell Sancerre to save your life 15, 16 years ago. Now, Sancerre is sold everywhere. It's probably on a par with Pinot Grigio. Why? It's dry, it's savory, it's minerally. I mean, it's just great wine. And what I love about it is two things. If you were in San Sebastian in Spain and you walked up to a couple having dinner and said, "What are you drinking today?" And chocolate. "Tell me what the grapes are in chocolate." They would look at you like you're absolutely crazy. They wouldn't know what the grapes are, right? But they just appreciate and love wine for what it is. And I think America is getting there. But at the same time, we have an incredible desire to know so much about everything that it becomes more academic, so we get the best of both. We have people passionately connected, but at the same time, no, I need to know more information. I want to know where it comes from. I want to know what percentage the grapes are. I'll never forget, I was in Priorat 10 years ago. And Priorat is one of the most beautiful regions you've ever been in. It's vineyards like this, planted on slate, old vines, some of this gorgeous stuff. And I was with a winemaker and a couple guys from New York who were tasting through some wines. And everyone's sitting there with a note, studiously recording every wine. And they kept saying, so what percentage is Garnacha? What percentage is Carignan? What percentage is Syrah? And every time the winemaker had to stop, we'd be tasting, doing this very sensual kind of thing, tasting these really old wines right out of barrel. And finally he stopped and he said, "What is it with you and Americans? Does everything have to add up to 100%? But I think that's the way we're built as Americans. It's our culture too. We want to know everything. We are kind of academic. But for the first time now, I see the academic melding with the soulful, spiritual, sensual side of wine. Because bottom line, wine is sensual. Think about the descriptors for Pinot Noir. Look at Sideways. I mean, the gentleman's spends his whole life searching for the perfect Pinot Noir, the perfect red wine. Well, what is that about? It's really about aromatics. So aromatics of wine are often it's fruit, it's earthy, it's musky. Much like this, the nape of a beautiful woman. You just want to smell her. It's sensual, it drives you, it's visceral. So you combine that with then the texture of it. It's like, it's like a tea, it's got grit, it's got silk, it's beautiful. And so we're getting the best of the sensual aspects of wine with the academic. And I think that's where we are as Americans. I think that's really cool. That's what we do great here. And that's why we've seen this incredible vertical spike in wine sales and education, and why when you go to restaurants right now, somms aren't just turning you on to the regular old cab, the regular old Pinot. They're pushing the envelope. They're saying, "Do you know what Tripont is?" By the way, that's part of my job. I'm bringing stuff to guys who are MSs and like brilliant in their own game. It's my job as an importer to get in front of them and say, do you know what rufete is? No. Okay, so I found a little producer in Salamanca in Spain that makes rufete. You have to try it. So I tell that story to the sommelier. And then the next time you go in and have dinner, guess what he's pouring to you? And what story is he telling you? He's telling you the story I just told him. Because good wine is really about telling a story of farmers, of wine growers. And I think there's been a fantastic change in that direction, which I'm happy about. It makes me successful. It makes me happy. I have a huge passion for wine. It's been driving my life for 16 years now, and there's no quit in it. I still smell wine, and my eyes will light up. It makes me smile. It doesn't matter how tired I am. If I'm traveling and I had 3 hours sleep and I walk into a wine cave and the guy's like, well, this is just the new vintage, and I smell it and I think it's fantastic. It's soulful. It's like music. It uplifts me and just energizes me, and that's what I love about it. That's why I've been doing it for as long as I have been doing it. No, it's just it's been a great journey. So I've seen on my journey, it just happens to coincide with the journey of American vision of wine and what's been happening on their table. I've watched it and kind of helped it come along, because I've helped introduce stuff like Tripat and Rufete and just off varietals or new winemakers. People are pushing the envelope like Steve Mathias in Napa or Matthew Rohr. People are doing just funky things and finding great varietals that were kind of lost, particularly in Napa in California, where 5 years ago, 8 years ago, it was just all cab and big baller cab that now is kind of not so important, and people are more looking to Verdelho and off varietals, and you have to realize California, back in the 30s and 40s, there were lots of Italian immigrants coming to California and planting what they loved, and then those vines kind of disappeared, but they're still there, and now winemakers are rediscovering stuff like that, or rediscovering Trousseau, or Verdelho, or Brancaleau, and varietals like you wouldn't know what they were, and some don't know what they are, until we put them back in front of them and say, hey, guess what? This is what California can do, and there's been a renaissance in California winemaking because of that, for sure. It's about that kind of great American pioneering spirit. It's still there, and people are doing it. So that's what we look for. That's what I'm looking for. So, and this is a classic example as well. You're talking about Chardonnay. 20 years ago, 15 years ago, was anyone growing? Now, on Mount Etna, the indigenous varietals are Caricante, right? That's one of the varietals that grows there well. But this guy he's a visionary. He plants Chardonnay on Mount Etna, which is a volcanic hill in the south of Italy, and you take volcanic soils and you put Chardonnay on it, and it's very much what Chablis is in France. Kimmeridgian soils, which are all white chalk, and you plant Chardonnay, you get this incredible minerality. This guy did it in Vienna.
I tasted it earlier. It's hard. I think you need a very sophisticated palate to taste the difference between that and Burgundian white.
Absolutely, and that was his vision, because nobody's growing Chardonnay beside him. So he was like, I'm gonna do something different. He's a Francophile, so he's like, I'll make Grand Cru Chablis, but I'll make it in Italy. And that's the way I describe this wine. It's brilliant, and to be part of those communities that have that vision and have the same passion, and I could see it. I sit with winemakers all day long, and some of it's just boring, and I can see the guy, I look in his eye. By the way, I look at his hands. Right? A real winemaker has hands like an old vine. You shake his hand and you go, wow, that guy's the winemaker. I shake hands and they're like silky soft and manicured. I'm like, he's not the winemaker. And I'll ask the guy, he'll talk like he's the winemaker, then eventually I get to the conversation, part of the conversation, and I'll say, who makes the wine? Oh, I don't make the wine, it's this guy. You shake that guy's hand, that's the guy. So that's who I want to meet. I want to meet the winemaker, because that's the guy who's got the soul. I'm into finding the soul one, not the generic guy who's just trying to make money and pump up his volume and sell it, and it's no interest to me. I want to find someone who has the same passion that I have, and that translates, and it translates in the glass. I could taste 100 wines, I can go through it every now and then, like, there's this holy shit, I call like the church moment, where the sun is coming through the stained glass window, and you're like, shh, anyone else hear trumpets? I hear trumpets. I'm like, I gotta find out who made this wine. And that happens to me. I'll be out at a restaurant, I'll be traveling, and sometimes when I travel, I'll go into a local store in parts of Spain or Germany. I'll buy 20 wines I've never heard of. And then I'll look for those church-like moments where it's just like, wow, that's like brilliant. And sometimes I can import that wine, sometimes I can't, and sometimes I'm just happy to taste it, because that's what it is. It's just like happen to be fortunate enough to witness a comet. That's the way I feel sometimes. So.